am compelled by Schlock.
We are serving up a heaping helping of holy schlock. I am your host, Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is the other host, Chris Anonymous. How's it going, Chris?
All is well in the schlockdom tonight.
All is well in schlockdom. All of schlockendom.
All of schlockendom as well.
So we have a very special movie for you tonight that we're talking about. This movie has been recommended to me by many people, some of which are men of the cloth. They thought it was pretty funny. We're talking about the VelociPastor.
The VelociPastor.
A movie that was made by, I believe, the director, writer. He was typing the word Velociraptor into his phone, as you do, and it auto-corrected. Yeah, it auto-corrected to VelociPastor as two words. And he said, "This is a gold mine.
It was a sign.
We have to make this right now." So this movie, it costs about $36,000 to make. And I think that it comes to no surprise to anyone who's seen it. Interestingly enough, that money was raised, I believe, through Kickstarter and through Seed and Spark, which is kind of more of a localized, community-based type of Kickstarter. I don't know. I've seen it used a few times on some things to fund movies, but
okay.
I don't know much more about it than that. But it originally started off as, I believe, like a school project, like a film school project, where the director was making kind of Grindhouse type trailers, right? Just
as you
crazy
want to do.
Yeah. I mean that sounds fun. That sounds
I enjoy
like a good assignment.
Yeah. Grindhouse trailer is always fun.
And they're, Grindhouse, they're weird exploitation movies that just have crazy stuff in them. And so,
speaking of weird and exploitation and all that stuff, we should remind people that we are a podcast that spoils movies. We talk about the good, the bad, the schlock. We ruin everything. So nothing's safe. And, we do this every week for fun, but if you click, if you like, if you subscribe, that would be even more fun. So
join in the conversation. Let us know what you think is good, bad, and
what are
schlock.
your favorite schlocky movies?
Mine, or you asking like the audience?
The audience, but I mean, you're my audience.
Yeah, well, we're just talking to each other right now.
This is broadcast live? What?
Oh, man. Oh, no.
I didn't sign up for this.
But so like us, as we stream on YouTube, these videos that this director made were also put onto YouTube. And like us, none of them got very many views until he created the VelociPastor trailer. And then it just skyrocketed. And that's how he knew that he had something
a winning concept,
fantabulous on his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So, we did some pre-show talk. I think I probably have a lot more to say about this movie than you do, but
probably
let's start getting into it.
Good things, yeah.
Well, first, tell us, what do you have for the web of schlock?
Not a lot. A lot of these people haven't done other things. The main two actors were both in a fair amount of TV shows over the years, a little guest appearance here and there. The director did one other movie called Animosity. It looked like a horror movie several years before this.
Okay.
And he's got another movie coming out called It's in the works, called Outback Dracula, which is a great title. It's not quite as perfect as the VelociPastor, but it also stars the same woman that was in this one. Her name is Alyssa.
Carol?
Yeah, who played Carol? Alyssa Kempinski.
Okay.
And she played a role in his other movie, Animosity. She was in this one. And then it says on IMDb that she's going to be in this other one. And she's been in a fair amount of TV over the last 10 years. But yeah, other than that, not a lot of really connections to anything. Very low budget, very group of friends. I mean, it feels like a group of friends made this. And so I'm guessing that's...
I'm not sure, but it looks like the actor that played the elderly priest, Father Stewart, it looks like he has the same last name as the director, Brendan Steere.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they are in relation in some way.
It'd be funnier if they weren't.
Yeah, right. Just a nice coincidence.
I only cast people who have the same last name as me, but no relation.
Right.
It's a weird criteria, man. You're not going to get very far. I don't care.
Well, so let's get into the good stuff about this movie. It sounds like your list might be kind of short. So
yeah, go ahead.
I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, okay. I like that it's short. I like that it's under an hour and a half.
110 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, right. I like that it wears its silliness on its sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably my favorite thing about it. Some of the use of songs I enjoyed. You don't hear a lot of kind of punk in a lot of movies.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So normally you talk about how you like the intro titles to movies. And I was going to say this week, I'm the roles are getting reversed because I love the title in this movie. And I think we got a shot of that. The title sequence at the end of credit.
I also enjoyed the title sequence this week too.
And it's because of the music. And I absolutely loved the music in this movie.
It's the music, but it's also the yellow and it's the font.
Yeah, very Grindhouse, very 70s.
Grindhouse. Yeah. So I thoroughly enjoyed the first 6 or 7 minutes of this, where the intro and the pre-intro. So go on. The music you loved in this scene. Yeah.
Well, like you said, you just don't hear that kind of, you don't hear that kind of punk rock really in movies.
Well, yeah. And I don't think it works for a lot of movies, but I thought it worked really well here.
It worked great for this. These bands. So let's see, I have them written down.
Nice.
Free Parking.
That's a good band name.
So do you know these bands? Free Parking, The Holy Mess, and Math the Band. I believe I've heard of Math the Band before, and I looked them up, and they've been performing since 2000, 2001. So they've been
Math the
around
Band
a while.
Sounds familiar, but the other two I haven't heard of.
Well, all of these bands, their sounded very similar to me, or not similar, but familiar, and that's because I think they've just tapped into that good old punk rock sound.
It felt like 90s to early 2000s punk rock.
I felt like I was in high school, and I have them on my Spotify now because I love these. I love this music in it.
So this is kind of in a good and bad, and I'll say this, and then I'll let you take over. Good. I liked and I disliked the split screen. I liked a lot of the choices they made with it, but sometimes it just
split screen.
Yeah, but sometimes it went too far. Sometimes it didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
So that's in my good and bad column. And other camera tricks too, like when after his parents die and he's talking to the older priest, and then they do that superimposed thing of their heads on each side, and they're talking directly to the cameras, they're talking to each other. That was kind of split screen anyway. I liked a lot of that, and then some of it it just either went too far or didn't go far enough to like double down on it. So that's in my good and my bad column.
Right. Well, I mean, I'd put that stuff in my good column. So this kind of transitions nicely. I feel like obviously this movie, it was made like with an intention to really lean into its weaknesses, right? It's leaning into a low budget. It's leaning into having unknown actors. I don't know if you can really say there's a lot of bad or schlocky things about the movie, because if you say that, then a defender of the movie can just be like, well, yeah, it was supposed to be like that. Mission accomplished.
That's my biggest problem with it.
I do feel like, though, through this movie, you see a lot of adeptness. I think there's like some really standout talent in this. When I see the cinematography, I look at it like, I feel like these people know what they're doing, but they're trying to do some bad things on purpose, like put things out of focus or whatever, or make the camera shake.
Some really interesting like zooms that are just awful, but they're doing them on purpose.
And for the most part, I thought the talent in this was really good. I really enjoyed.
I really like these
actors. Yeah, Pastor Jones, I think Doug Jones is his name.
Doug,
yeah, and Carol, the lawyer, doctor hooker. I absolutely loved the main bad guy. I can't remember his name right now. I think it was Wei Chan. I don't know if they say it or not. But I loved his look. I thought he was a great actor. I loved how he went back and forth between the Chinese, I assume, and English. Check him out. He's got this shaved head, these bushy eyebrows, and a Hitler stash. And
probably
I think
stash.
I'm assuming it's a Hitler stash because he's the bad guy. Oh. And I think maybe that was some visual cues, right? To go, okay, this is bad dude. But I thought his overall look was good, and I think that he would have fit right into a regular big budget ninja action movie.
If they still made those.
Yeah, which, I mean, come on, they need to.
They need to.
His brother in it, the only son scene. Or I called it the only son scene, but when he reveals to Doug Jones that he was not an only child, I mean, I thought this actor was good, and it looks like he hasn't really done many other things, but I could have sworn that I've seen him in other things.
He has a familiar look.
Yeah, and so again, it felt like they just really leaned into their weakness, that maybe he's not a professional actor. It certainly hasn't broken into the big time, but he definitely had that charisma to pull off, I think, those sort of weird, zany, absurdist jokes. And of course, Father Stewart, the elder Steere, I think we have a picture of him. I loved his backstory. I just loved the overall look of his face. He had this awesome like grimace the entire time. And I was really unsure about the comedy in this at first, and I'll maybe get to this in the bad or the schlock later. But this scene like really sold the comedy of the movie to me, when he's like writing to his girl back home. I think he's in Vietnam, and he's supposed to be like in the Vietnamese jungle, and she runs up to him. She's like there for some reason. She runs up and steps on the landmine and just explodes. And
that was pretty funny.
I mean, the effect is so comically gory, and his reaction is just absolutely perfect. He's standing there with his arms outstretched, just totally like, what the hell just happened? And the dialogue around that, the two extra actors that say, I wonder what she was doing in the forest. I don't know. Maybe she was trying to start a family. Like, just such on the nose comedy. That's
so much on the nose.
It sold it for me. I absolutely loved it.
The whole movie had just tons of on the nose dialogue.
But that's like what made it funny to me.
A lot of it, yeah.
I think probably a lot of this is to taste, and I'll get into that when I talk about some of the bad stuff. But the final thing that I have for good, and this might sound really weird, I really liked the sex scene. Let that sink in for a second, because it makes it sound like I'm a perv. But what I think was awesome about this scene is that it wasn't gratuitous, and it kind of mocked what we view as regular sex scenes. You and I, we've talked off air, probably ad nauseum, about my feelings of nudity in art and in cinema. And one of my problems with it is that a lot of nudity is based on a lot of nudity, and therefore sex scenes in movies are based on the male gaze, right? We have the camera specifically most of the time moving over the female actress, and it is, and I'm not crazy here, there's a lot of video essays on this stuff. They are dissecting the woman and essentially like taking her humanity away from her by just showing her as a series of body parts. And so you talked about the split screen stuff earlier, and this is a part where I think that it worked really, really well, because they are indeed like dissecting the characters to show this sort of intimacy between them, show that they're going to have sex or that they are having sex. But it did it in just like this really weird artsy way. That the color is really interesting. And from the picture that we have up here, you see that not only do they have the shots of them while they're in the bedroom together doing the act, we also see shots of their memories together. And so to me, I thought that just did a really awesome job of showing the connection that they have, why they're in the situation that they're in, why they're making love. So I think it was more of a love scene than a sex scene. And of course it was goofy. There's some goofy stuff in it, but I think that there's some real showcasing of artistic ability there. I loved the song during it. I do think that the whole thing went on a little too long, and it made it kind of a music video for the song. But again, that's sort of to taste. So, that's my spiel on that.
I agree with you. I had the sex montage listed in the Schlock as a positive thing. Is there another montage later? Or is that the one that after it goes on, it just gets really almost epilepsy, like just crazy?
Yeah. Toward the end, they like start like flashing their between their faces back and forth, and it gets really crazy.
Yeah. So if you would have cut like the last 20 seconds of that off, I would have like 100% been on board with you.
And like I said, I get what they were trying to do, right? They're melding the people together.
I get it. Yeah.
It just went on too long, and it got pretty epileptic.
Yeah, someone's gonna twitch and have a seizure.
Right. Yeah. They got to put a warning label in front of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I have for good. Should we move into the bad?
Sure. I think the question I have is it parody, and is it like a parody of Schlock itself? Like, I don't think that this movie knew what it wanted to be. Now, it starts off almost in a weird way. Like, did you ever see the film Rubber?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, weird movie, man.
It reminded me a lot of that, and I was totally okay with that. But then it like started pulling back. Like, no, that's not what this is. And then the middle, there was just so much filler. And then it did really fun things like the let's pull up the "She's Fine" toward the end.
Right after she gets chopped
After
with
she,
the
yeah, after she
samurai
gets chopped,
sword.
yeah. So I love that they use the old Grindhouse fonts and that cool yellow, and I like that they say she's fine. This is a really fun moment to me because it's so on the nose and silly and self-aware, and I just felt like there wasn't enough of that. There was a lot in the beginning, and there was some toward the end, and in the middle, it was there, but it wasn't there. Like, it felt like it either didn't go far enough or it went too far, and it just felt really unbalanced to me. Like,
Yeah.
is it too self-aware or is it not self-aware enough? Like, yeah.
Well, so like you, the movie Rubber, which we might have to do sometime, that definitely came into my mind at the beginning. So I have it as the opening joke. Essentially, I think it's the first big joke of the film that we get when he comes out of the church and he waves to his mom and dad, and their car blows up, and we just have this VFX car on fire.
Yeah, and I almost had this as my picture. So go ahead.
I just thought that was like such a hard-lined joke to start the whole thing out with. I was immediately like, uh-oh, this is going to be like Rubber. And then it really dialed it back from there, and it had what I think is a lot funnier jokes. I think there's a place for this kind of joke, but you're right. I don't think that it really fit in necessarily.
It did not. That joke at the beginning of the movie says this is going to be like Rubber, and then it was not like that at all, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But then you can get a stupid app on your phone right now for 99 cents that you can make any car explode.
Exactly. And I think that was maybe my overall gripe with it, is that I feel like there's enough free footage and apps and things like that now that they could have maybe spent a little bit more and made some better CGI in it.
Or if they had ran out of
better.
Yeah, if they'd ran out of money at the end, they could have had the parents die another way. I think doing this joke so early on is what turned me off. Not that they did the joke, but that joke set down a path and it did not follow that path at all. Except for like, every once in a while I would poke in and I'm like, no, you can't do that. That doesn't work.
But again, I think that's a matter of taste. I think there are probably some people that see that and they're like, man, this movie is starting off on the right foot.
And well, yeah, it is a matter of taste, but at the same time, I mean, all I can talk about is my taste. And like, when you put the gauntlet down of saying, okay, this is like Rubber, and then you don't deliver that, you've thrown me off of what I'm watching. And it just kept going back and forth of like, what kind of, is it schlock? And that's the other problem I have with these kind of movies, is that it's ersatz schlock. It's fake schlock. Mm-hmm. This was based on a Grindhouse trailer he made in college, which I watched the trailer and I prefer that to the movie.
Oh, I have not seen the trailer.
I think it delivers on the concept a lot more, and sometimes shorter is better. And I and that's not to say I didn't like a lot in this movie. I did, but if sometimes like a Grindhouse concept is really good in a trailer format,
like Machete,
and then they just don't. Sometimes they can expand and be awesome, and sometimes they expand and you're like,
yeah.
The promise of the premise was so much better in the trailer because I could make it up in my head, and I'm like, okay, this is what you delivered, and I know you're on a limited budget. Yeah, so
right.
I don't know.
Well, and I think in the end, you pointed out how short the movie is. It's basically like an extended short film.
Yeah, well, and you had talked about earlier that like it's hard to call anything bad or schlock in this because they have a get out of jail free card.
Yeah. Right.
And I get it and I'm okay with it, but part of me also says that that's cheating. Like, I'm like, there's something about like old schlock that's like there's an innocence to it.
Right.
And anyone
that's always been kind of one of my criteria for schlock. Like what makes a good schlocky movie is that the people that made it had to have at some point really believed in the film, right? Like
Slithis.
they got up in the morning, they created these sets,
Yeah.
they were writing and they're like, man, this is just going to be the best thing. And then it just turns out bad due to whatever, as opposed to setting out to make a specifically bad movie.
Right. So this film plus last week, Slithis feels like it's on this side of innocence, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then this feels on the exact opposite of that spectrum of like can't be innocent because it's an homage to Schlock. So you're one step removed no matter what.
But at the same time, I think you have to acknowledge that this has come up as like, I think kind of a new genre, semi-new within the past 20 years. So like with the Sharknado movies, the shark movies, right?
Yes.
Three-headed shark, four-headed shark. Like, I think it's become a genre to make movies with the intention of them being like ridiculously bad.
Right. And then some of those, their cynicism, there's an innocence to their cynicism. Like it doubles over on itself. Of like, 'cause some of those are trying to make a really good fake Schlock movie, and then it turns out to be like a Schlock or a Schlock. I'm rambling, but so
we're kind of going into Schlock. The last thing that I have for bad, and this is like I said, you said they have a get out of jail free card, but as some people may know, I am about two and a half classes away from having my master's degree in theology. I am almost a master of theology, a master theologian. And so, of course, I was watching this kind of nitpicking some of this stuff. And again, it's a weird movie. It's all tongue in cheek. But I always hate bad theology in movies. And so I just want to point out a couple of things. So they're Catholic. These guys are Catholic priests. And one of the things is that they don't believe in dinosaurs. He says, dinosaurs aren't real. I'm sure there are some Catholics out there that believe that. There are different beliefs.
I'm sure there are atheists out there who don't believe in dinosaurs.
Yeah, maybe. But as far as I know, that's not a official position of the Catholic Church, is that dinosaurs did not exist.
No, it was in the movie for the joke.
Yeah, totally. But they played it out a very long time. Also, confessionals. So if a murderer or a child rapist or something comes into the confession booth and confesses that, it's not exactly that the priests will keep that quiet and let them get away with that. They because of things like that, there are some like built-in rules to take care of things like that, like anonymously tipping off the police, or part of confession is that the person confessing is like seeking forgiveness and absolution, and therefore they have to do the right thing, right? Like turn themselves into the police in order to fully achieve the process of the confession. Also, I think that they like misquoted some scripture, which I mean, I don't know.
I guess
nitpicky for Darby.
This felt like movie religion. It felt like everything was based on previous horror movies and other schlocky movies. I did enjoy the transformation. I thought there was Schlock. I loved the hands. I loved his overacting. I thought the set was really, really fun. Yeah. I liked that you had the priest going to the evil witch doctor kind of guy. Mm-hmm. This was a fun beat, and this was one of the parts that I enjoyed more than others.
Yeah, I think they had some fun set pieces going on in this, and right here is a great example of how I wish that they would have just found some free online images of a dinosaur and then green screened in these ninjas.
So this is interesting, and we have another shot of the VelociPastor. And VelociPastor implies Velociraptor, and not to get nitpicky about dinosaurs, but as people know, I'm about 5'8" 5 classes away from having a master's in dinosaurness.
Paleontology?
Yeah, well, it's a black belt in
No. I'm gonna have a black belt in dinosaurology.
Yeah, I'm becoming a dinosaur. I'm almost there. And that's a T-Rex. That's not a Velociraptor, man, which is fine. And maybe that's part of the joke. But I'm like, after Jurassic Park and how big the Velociraptors are, I'm sure there's some crappy costume out there. Or don't make him go full dinosaur. I liked the claws on his hand. Yeah. I liked his eyes. Like, again,
and I honestly thought the movie would be more of that.
Yeah. And I loved this montage too, because it was him becoming who he was. So you have who's who in the Bible here, and then you have this dinosaur biting this guy's
T-Rex. I feel like there's probably someone out here who's going to listen to that and go, well, technically that's not a T-Rex. It's a Massassaurodon or something.
Right. Well, it's paper mache something. Right. Yeah. And again, this is also
Paperdon.
This feels more like a rubber thing than a schlocky horror movie. And the original trailer was darker, grittier. It had more of that Grindhouse feel, where it's like they tried with a costume. Even if you fail with the costume that you're trying, it's going to be a little better. This was not trying at all. This was purely a joke. Right. And so there was no real horror ever. The only horror that you had was when the guy in the park was shooting him and you had not seen him yet. You saw some claws, you saw some blood, right? But once you see what he looks like, it was much scarier. Like when he reaches his hand through the confessional and kills unicorn or mermaid. Yeah. You know why they call me? Is it Jimmy Mermaid? I can't think of what his first name was.
Yeah. So I want to throw this out here. I read that they're going to do a sequel, and I just want to offer up a name: Velociraptor.
I love it.
If they do that, I just want to put this out there. Brendan, if you're listening, please contact me. Give me a call. I'll consult the theology for free. So anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Chris, what are we watching next week?
Well, next week, in honor of Valentine's Day, we are watching the horror movie Cupid from 2020.
Awesome. Well, I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous. We're compelled by Schlock. We will see you next week. Take it easy, y'all.
Bye.
I am compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Compelled by Schlock. Wait, no.